All right, so this is the Reading Solar Flares project by Tommy Fallon and Christian Estey. Basically, what we did in this project was we found a document that took information from a satellite that records solar flare data in the Earth's solar system throughout the past 48 hours, and we used MATLAB to take that information and turn it into a table that anyone can read.
All right.
Next,
So the next slide. So
best part
why
of
are we
that.
using MATLAB? MATLAB is a great tool for creating programs for many different things. So the different things can be numerical computing, which MATLAB excels at in performing mathematical computations involving linear algebra, optimization, numerical integration, differential equations, and complex calculations. You can also use it for data analysis and visualization. Uh, it provides tools for importing, cleaning, analyzing, and visualizing data, making it useful for data exploration, plotting graphs, and creating visual representations. Another way you can use it is machine learning and deep learning, which is like AI. So MATLAB provides comprehensive tools and toolboxes for developing and implementing machine learning and deep learning algorithms, making it a valuable resource in artificial intelligence research and applications. And then lastly, you can also use it for application development. MATLAB enables the creation of applications, GUIs, which is graphical user interfaces, and tools through its programming capabilities, allowing users to build customized solutions. There's also many other ways you can use MATLAB for, but these are the four that I thought were the most important. So the next one. So why do solar flares matter? So the reason why solar flares matter is that it can disrupt technology such as satellites. So strong solar flares can cause disruptions in satellite operations and communication systems. The increased radiation can interfere with satellite electronics, causing temporary malfunctions or even permanent damage to the satellites. The solar flares can also cause intense radiation. So although Earth's atmosphere protects us from most of its radiation, astronauts in space or even passengers and crew members on high altitude flights can be at risk of increased radiation exposure during the intense solar flare events. So knowing when these events happen can lead to a safer flight or for safer astronauts. And lastly, power grid vulnerability. So solar flares, which can cause geomagnetic storms induced by these solar flares, can induce electric currents and power lines on Earth. These induced currents can overload electrical systems, potentially leading to power outages or damage to transformers and other electrical infrastructure. And now on to Tommy.
All right, so when it comes to the challenges we faced, honestly, we didn't face that many challenges necessarily. There were just a lot of inconveniences and like things that took a lot of work to do. Like for when we were converting the data into a table, first off, we could find information like showing graphs of the data of all the solar flare information over the past, 20 48 hours, but there was an issue of like when like we have the data, but how are we going to convert this over to a text file with all the information labeled? And what we ended up doing for that was that on the final source we found for the actual like data, it had a URL connected to it of the text file where it got its data from. So we were able to take that URL and use it in our own data for all the information. And then another kind of hindrance we had was just the sheer amount of information there was made it so like we had to kind of simplify it for certain like so for like different variables that people would understand and like comprehend. And then there's like yeah, the altering variables, which was honestly kind of difficult because it's a It's not necessarily hard. It's just you have to go through and alter every variable individually, which just takes up a lot of extra time.
All
You
right, on to
can.
the next slide.
So then for the code, this was the code we had. It's not particularly difficult in the slightest when if you understand MATLAB. So basically what it is we have to create we had to create a URL variable so that we could paste the URL the text file the variable for the text file into the later on code so it would be read as a table on MATLAB and not just as a text file. And so that's what the TT variable is and the read table function. So basically the read table function will read all the data in the .text file and turn it into an actual usable table within MATLAB. And so below that, there's the rename vars uh, function, which is used to rename the individual variables within the table to each use like into each variable that would be. So there's date, time, ISR min, I minus 293 over 4, ISR min, PM min minus 65. And those were all the variables we used. Then you have to use the figure command so that there's pretty much so that there is a blank canvas for any plotting or graphing commands to actually kind of paint a picture onto of what you are wanting it to say. And so, yeah, that's where we have the plot command. So it actually plots our data so that you can see what it is instead of just having to read a gross, ugly hunk of text of what it is. And so since we have multiple variables, you can't graph multiple variables at one time in a plot. So that's where the hold on at slash hold off command comes in to play because you need to pause MATLAB so that when you say plot again, it doesn't just go ahead and create a new figure for you. So you have to say hold on so it like holds it, freezes it in time. And then once you say plot again, it'll plot on over top of your already existing information, even more information onto it so that you don't erase anything else. It's basically like an overlay of multiple plots on top of one. And then the hold off command will basically make it so it's no longer paused. So if you were to say plot again, it would just create a whole new plot. And then at the end, we have the legend command, which is very simple. It just creates a legend saying which color represent of like line or just which line represents which variable. And that's about it for our code.
All right, and then that's the end of our presentation.